Between 2000 and 2006, Henrico County had 25 juvenile automobile crashes that resulted in death. The courts and police have stepped up their vigilance, arresting risk takers, ticketing speeders, and raising public awareness to the dangers of speed, alcohol, the use of seat belts, horseplay, and issues of inattention caused by the use of cell phones and other electronic devices. We were hopeful when there were no juvenile driver fatalities for the next 10 years, but we were not naive. We know human nature and expected another family would have to suffer the pain and grief associated with the loss of a child. On August 6, 2016, another family got the call.
It was exactly 2:01 at night. My stepdaughter came into my room where we were staying and woke me up crying and said that Frank had been in a car accident. And you're in shock at that point. I just wanted to know, was he driving? Is he okay? Who was in the car with him? What was he doing? And as soon as the police told me that it was him for sure, that was, very gut-wrenching. A lot of shock. My wife wasn't there. My son, my 13-year-old, was with me, along with the other kids. So I just sat up, and it was 2:30 in the morning by that time when we figured out everything that had happened.
We were called out to the scene. I was called out from home. It's one of those things that you never get used to, getting called out in the middle of the night, because when the phone goes off, it's something bad, especially when it's involved someone so young. I was called out from the house, responded to the scene. It was a single vehicle accident, single occupant that was into a tree. He was pronounced at the scene. He was deceased. The car impacted a tree and basically almost split the car basically in half. The intrusion was, I would say, probably about 3 feet into the vehicle. Basically just hit the tree head on. His blood alcohol level being a 0.19, with 0.08 being the legal limit in Virginia. He was headed down West Ham Parkway, headed towards River Road, when he lost control of the vehicle. We determined the vehicle speed increasing from, it went from 74 miles an hour up to 78 at impact. So he was increasing his speed, and I think when he went around that corner, it was just too much for the car to handle.
That night he had been drinking that night. He Ubered from one party back to our house, and then he left our house to actually go visit a girl and grab the car. I had taken the kids to a family vacation down in South Carolina, and my wife was actually out of town picking up one of the other kids from a camp and then coming to meet me in South Carolina. Frank was here at home. I left him here because he was on the varsity football team, and his first practice in pads was going to be that Monday. So he was supposed to be staying with my mother. 9 o'clock that night, he had texted me and asked if he could spend the night with one of his friends. I said no at first, but he sent me back another text and said, "Dad, my first practice is Monday. I'm really getting excited about it. I want to have, some fun with my buddies tonight." And I said, okay. Normally, in that situation, I would have contacted the other mother and find out if it was okay for him to stay over there, and I did not do it. One of the biggest regrets I'll have for the rest of my life.
The worst part of our job is when we do get called out and there is a death, we know that's someone's loved one, especially when it's a younger child that has their whole life ahead of them and they made a bad choice. So the worst thing for us is when we have to go notify that family afterward and make that death notification. Any kids, when they're getting ready to get their license, they need to think about their family. How would their family feel? How would their siblings feel? Their brothers or sisters or grandparents, any family member that they're close to. How do you think they're going to feel if they were to make the same mistake? Just like Mr. Woolwine's dealing with now, the loss of a child that, you know, was a great athlete, had his whole life in front of him, and now it's just taken away in a matter of seconds over just a stupid decision.
You know, if you see any signs, talk to your kids. I would have been a lot tougher, I think, in situations. Now, with what I know, I think it was one of those things where I tried to write some stuff off based on them being adolescents and being in high school. He was a great kid, very outgoing, very friendly. I always say that at his funeral, there were 8 different schools from Richmond represented at his funeral. I think that says a lot. I heard from kids that said, you know, I'd be walking the Hall of Freeman, Frank would talk to me. He would say hi to me. His smile. You know, you know, he was big and we wrestled. We did all kind of stuff. But I just miss his smile. We call him the big lug. I mean, you could hear him move everywhere. When he'd come up the stairs, you could hear him. You know, he just boom, boom. And he was just one of those kids that he'd just giggle, and you know, he's a fun kid. I miss him tremendously.
I ask you as parents to look for the warning signs of risky behaviors. Address the issues with your children and punish by removal of automobile and other privileges, anything, so you don't have to get the call.